Hi everyone, it's Lynn Love, and today's video is going to be about the 10 top most looked up questions about Chinese medicine school. And this is from the perspective of someone that is 4 months from graduating. I'm in my last semester, and I really want to pass down any wisdom and information that I have to anyone that is looking to start studying Chinese medicine or just begin this path and wondering what it takes to become a licensed acupuncturist or a Chinese medicine practitioner here in the United States. So we have 10 questions. I actually got these from a ChatGPT, and I just literally looked up what are the most looked up questions. And so thank you, ChatGPT. We're going to be looking at each of these questions. I'm kind of just going to be going through each one of them and going to be doing my best at answering and giving answers to anything anyone might have in regard to these questions. And so if you do end up having a question, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'm really interested and really just wanting to share any information that I can for anyone that wants to study this medicine. And so let's start with the first question. It is, what kind of degree do you need to become a Chinese medicine practitioner? This is a really great question, and my answer to a lot of these questions is it depends on where you are in the world, the government, and the laws and legislature that surrounds the medicine. And so it's really up to you in terms of doing research on what the laws say about Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and being able to practice in the area that you're at. In regards to where I'm currently living, I'm living in California. I'm going to a university here. And so a lot of the requirements and uh, basically what you need to sit for the license exam at the end of school is created by the laws and created by different organizations here in the United States that have defined what it means to be an acupuncturist, use Chinese medicine in a clinical setting, and also with the requirements that are needed to get to that point. So my school actually has different degrees. So there was a master's program, I believe, and now there's a doctorate program. I'm actually finishing getting my doctorate of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and that takes about 4.5 years, depending on how fast you go in the program. For me, it took me 5 years because just life. And if you ask anybody that goes through the program, you really learn about yourself and you go through this journey and you change as a person. So you really have to um, take into account that life will happen and you're going to be changed as you go through the program because if you're even remotely interested in Chinese medicine and if you start studying it, it really does change you. And so just prepare for that. Um, for the better and sometimes for more challenging areas, but you go through it and it's a lot, but really beautiful, and you learn a whole new paradigm of looking at the body and looking at life in general. So the second question is, what are the admission requirements for Chinese medicine school? Again, this is going to differ depending on where you are, what country you're in, what the laws and organizations say about the medicine, and what is needed to become a licensed acupuncturist or a licensed practitioner. In California, where I'm at, you need about 4.5 years of schooling. That includes didactic and clinical hours, including taking license exams to be able to prove that you are proficient the in all of the things that you've studied in Chinese medicine school. And there's another question that actually talks about the types of classes that you'll begin to study during school as well. The third question is, How long does it take to become a licensed acupuncturist? I have two answers to this question. The most literal answer to this question is it takes about 4.5 years at the university I'm at. But again, it depends on where you're at in the world, the program that you're going to be in, how rigorous it is, and yeah, just it really depends on the research that you do, depending on where you go. So I highly recommend if you're thinking about studying Chinese medicine, do research and look into the schools and what they require and what the government requires from you to be a licensed practitioner and to be practicing Chinese medicine for the public. My second answer to this question is that it's a lifelong journey in studying the medicine because not only do you take the 4.5 years of school, which includes biomed, heavy Chinese medicine theory, herbology, and acupuncture theory, you're also taking so much more before that. Most people come into the program at my school with such variations in backgrounds and majors and minors and all different things, and people are owners of businesses and have kids, and so it takes them like quite a long time to finish the program, which is also okay. I know a lot of people who do part-time in the program and finish the program within 6, 7, or even 8 years, and that's also just being able to work life, go to school and balance all those things together. So it really is a lifelong journey in terms of studying the medicine. And if you started to just really get really interested in about medicine and the body, then that could be a long time. And that includes the 4.5 years that you will learn in Chinese medicine school, a whole new paradigm and what the ancient Chinese knew about the body as well. So it takes about 4.5 years here in California, and of course, it depends on what country and the requirements that are needed, depending on where you are. But as of for California, it takes about 4.5 years, and depending on the school that you go to. So the fourth question is a fun question. What kind of classes do you take in Chinese medicine school? So I touched on this a little bit. The school that I'm currently going to is an integrative school. And so what that means is there's a bridge between Chinese medicine and Western medicine and being able to cross collaborate and being able to have that conversation with a medical doctor about someone that's coming in for acupuncture for whatever condition they are, and being able to bridge the gap. And so that's the integrative aspect to the school that I'm going to, which is really cool. And there's a lot of classes that we get to take in terms of biomedicine and understanding how Western medicine, allopathic medicine looks at the body and looks at how they treat certain conditions. For example, we take lots of biomed classes. I've taken pathophysiology a couple times, pharmacology, and advanced integrative diagnosis class. I've taken ortho-neural evaluation, physical exam, treatment of orthopedic disorders, things of these sort, to kind of understand the medicine and the body through a Western allopathic lens. So it's really useful to be able to kind of cross reference each, at the same time looking at the body and diagnosing from a Chinese medicine perspective and pattern. So a Chinese medicine practitioner who's licensed here in California can really only diagnose in a Chinese medicine, with that in that lens, even if they go to an integrative school. So, for example, like my school. And the other classes that you take in terms of Chinese medicine, you start with acupuncture theory and identifying the points. You learn a lot about Chinese herbal theory and applying Chinese herbs in a formula. And you learn about Chinese herbs for about 4 years. So it's a really big chunk of the program and is very rigorous. And personally, it was one of the most challenging parts for me in the program as well. And then you go through and you learn about Chinese theory and how the Chinese really learned and looked at the body and the physiology within Chinese medicine, which I really loved as well. And you learn about these fundamental principles of what created Chinese medicine. For example, learning more about yin and yang, learning more about Taoism, the more philosophical, historical aspects of Chinese medicine. You also get a little bit of that there in Chinese medicine school as well, too. And so, let me see if there's any other classes that I may have missed. One of my personal favorite classes were learning about diagnosis and treatment of certain disorders and diseases. And so there was like a series of those classes that I took, and you really learn about each and every system and how to treat certain disorders within that system. Um, from a Chinese medicine perspective, and then you also learn about how Western medicine will what approach that Western medicine will take to treat that as well. So in one of the classes, you learn about respiratory disorders, and then another class will focus a lot on mental health and geriatrics and pediatrics and gynecology. So it's really cool. I loved learning about all of those different systems and ways of treating the body. And it starts making me think about a lot about, where would I like to specialize, or what do I like to treat, or what am I most interested in? And often it's connected a lot to what you've gone through personally in your health journey, in your personal journey, in your life. And so Chinese medicine school again changes you once you kind of journey through it, and you learn so much about yourself and your body, and gives you a new way of thinking once you've fully immersed yourself. I know personally for me, it's changed so much of how I understand myself, my body, my relationships, and I take a lot of those principles, those really fundamental principles such as yin and yang or the five elements into everything, into my life. So the fifth question is, what are the job prospects for Chinese medicine practitioners? Another great question. I believe that this is changing a lot more nowadays. I recall hearing from teachers in the past saying that it was really hard for people, and and some of the only options that acupuncturists and Chinese medicine practitioners had was to just open a clinic right out of school and do a lot of marketing and things like that. But nowadays here in California, they've actually passed a law that Chinese medicine practitioners, licensed acupuncturists, are considered primary care physicians. And so what that means is a lot of acupuncturists now have opportunities to work at hospitals and to be on that same the primary care level as well. So that gives a lot of prospects to Chinese medicine practitioners and people who are um, going into this profession. So there are a lot of job prospects. There's a lot more clinics that are being open and willing to hire and take on new acupuncturists as well. And so that's really exciting. So the sixth question is, how much does it cost to go to Chinese medicine school? So this is another great question. Before going to Chinese medicine school, I highly, highly recommend looking at the cost and looking at what the cost and the time and the resources that you have and where you're at in your life and how that all fits in. And if it aligns truly with what you want. I definitely think that for me, looking back, I was like, oh wow, okay, like I didn't fully think it through all the way, even though I don't regret going through the program. There was moments of a lot of challenging times of thinking, is this really what I want to do? I'm really spending a lot of money on this. And for me, I took student loans, so needing to understand that I'm going to pay back those student loans after I graduate. And so the program that I go to is about 100,000, and each school that you go to, or depending on where you are, what country you're in, and the requirements, that cost is going to differ. So definitely do research before you move on, move forward in going to Chinese medicine school. So the seventh question is, are there online programs for studying Chinese medicine? This is a really good question. I think currently there's a lot of schools that are doing online classes. Currently, my school is doing some online classes because of COVID and the pandemic. However, I'm not quite sure about the other online programs for Chinese medicine in terms of what's available out there.